Good morning, everybody. The Justice Committee will be meeting on April 2nd, which is Tuesday, to study online hate. And we'll get there. But they're doing that because of the Christchurch killing. And that's interesting because there have been a lot of terrorists and terrorist killings. And even since the Christchurch killing, there have been other people killed, heinous acts around the world, and yet I don't think those conversations are going to make it into our Justice Committee. Here's a side-by-side comparison of the way media is used to sway public opinion. 2015, viewpoint, fear-mongering, and the fog of terror, that's on the left, and it says, quote, "It's no secret that Canada remains a target for jihadi terrorism," states MP Diane Finley in a recent mailer sent to residents through the Halamed, Norfolk? Sorry if I've got that wrong. Halamed? I've never been there. It is also hardly a secret that Prime Minister Stephen Harper and his MPs are seeking to fan and exploit Canadians' fear of terrorism to win another term in office. And then fast forward to 2019, violent white supremacists threaten Canada's stability, says Freeland. Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister says violent white supremacists and other far-right groups threaten the country's stability and should be the primary focus of the international community's counterterrorism efforts, including by stopping the spread of hate online. Chrystia Freeland told the United Nations Security Council on March 28th that she felt a, quote, personal responsibility to denounce white supremacist attacks as, quote, the foreign minister of a majority white and majority Christian country. Weird. What a weird thing to say. And here's links to both of those articles. I don't like just giving memes without links. So here's a link to the first one. That's 2015. Link to the second one. That's 2019. Oh, where's your purple dress? Okay, so here's CTV News reporting. Back to SNC Lavalin and what this means for the study of online hate. And why am I talking about this? CTV News is reporting, Liberals drop SNC Lavalin study at Justice Committee. The Parliamentary Justice Committee had ended its study on the SNC Lavalin issue without the further testimony from Jody Wilson-Raybould that opposition MPs had demanded. Following 5 weeks and 13 hours of testimony, the Justice Committee convened behind closed doors Tuesday to plan their next steps in its study of alleged political interference in the corruption case of Quebec engineering giant SNC Lavalin. I scroll down. The committee then adopted a motion to move on to a study of how they could append the Canadian Human Rights Act to stem the, quote, propagation of hateful acts and incitement of hate. The motion comes just days after a shooter attacked 2 mosques in New Zealand, killing 50 people. There's the reference to the Christchurch. Once the meeting wrapped up, opposition MPs burst through the committee doors and blasted the Liberals for ending the study. Quote, "They're controlling what's being said," Deputy Conservative leader Lisa Raitt told the reporters on Tuesday. "They're controlling who is being heard from. They're controlling whether or not we study a topic. This is really egregious and absolutely shameful." I agree. I scroll down again. As a result of the decision to end its study, the committee will not hear from several witnesses the opposition has requested speak before committee, including senior PMO officials Elder Marquez and Mathieu Bouchard and Katie Telford. Quote, "We're seeing obstruction. We're seeing the truth being prevented from coming out," said NDP MP Tracy Ramsey. So in an unlikely partnership, an unlikely pairing up, the NDP and the Conservatives both agree that what the Liberals are doing is absolutely egregious. And I agree. Here's the Justice Committee schedule, because it was hard for me to find this little snippet on the committee adopting a motion to move to a study of how they could amend the Human Rights Act to stem the propagation of hateful acts and incitement of hate. It's really hard to find reporting on this. There isn't much of it. So I went to this, like the Justice Committee website, to see exactly what they were calling it, because they weren't calling it how it was initially reported. And so I started searching for online hate, and then I found this. And yeah, there's not any information. I believe it's in camera, which means no cameras, no recording devices, no nothing, no notes, no nothing. We're in camera. It's just a conversation, everybody, by the committee, so nobody gets to hear it, right? I don't think in camera should exist except for national security purposes, and then an independent panel of judges gets to decide who or what qualifies as that bar. Not a purchased panel either. Like 50 people in a pool, 50 judges in a pool, and any 3 could get picked. And you don't know which 3, and they don't know which 3, right? And maybe nobody knows who the 50 are as well. So like this system is just getting so corrupted. We need to have systems in place that prevent the corruption, the ease of the corruption. Like right now, lobbyists are walking in to say, hey, can we get a DPA? Weren't you guys charged a few years ago? We were. Thanks for noticing. Yeah, we had a charge in 2015. Can we get a DPA put into the law in 2018? We can, thanks. Darn that AG who won't play ball, right? So now we don't need to study that. They need to study online hate. Huh. Crazy. Here is Michael Wernick, and I think they're going to try the Lindsay Sheppard defense. What do I mean by that? Well, we'll see in just a second. Hold on. The Globe and Mail is tweeting out, quote, Jody Wilson-Raybould's decision to record phone call with Michael Wernick raises ethical questions. And I'm not going to look at the article because I don't really care all that much. I'll show you a different article. Here's the KitchenerToday.com website reporting, which is like news. Used to be the Record, I'm sure. They say, lawsuit against Lindsay Sheppard. Ludicrous, says lawyer. The defense lawyer for a former Wilfrid Laurier University teaching assistant is calling allegations against his client by two professors ludicrous. Howard Levitt, who represents Lindsay Sheppard, says he doesn't understand why Nathan Rambuchanan and Herbert Pimlott would sue her. The two professors allege Sheppard is responsible for the broad publication of a recorded conversation in November 2017. The paper has not been submitted yet, according to Levitt. The pair, though, maintain their comments were not defamatory, but argue in a third-party claim that they could not have known the statements would be recorded or disseminated outside that meeting. They allege Sheppard had, quote, power and control over the recording and the distribution of the conversation and meant for the contents of the meeting to potentially become widely available and discussed. Therefore, they argue, should the court find Peterson suffered damages or injuries, those would be, quote, attributed to Sheppard and her publication and dissemination of the recording. If that's the case, Levitt wonders why they wouldn't go after the media outlets and others who shared the, quote, awful tape of her inquisition as well. Quote, she's unemployed, she's no longer with the university, and now they're suing her, he said. It's just so outrageous, it's hard to articulate in language. Yes, it is. And that's essentially what Mr. Wernick is trying to imply. Like, if, I had known, I wouldn't have said those incriminating things. Well, probably not, but then we wouldn't know that those incriminating things were going on. And the idea that Miss Lindsay Sheppard is responsible for the fallout of the professor's words, maybe Mr. Wernick will try that too. Maybe he'll try and blame Jody Wilson-Raybould for all of Justin Trudeau's problems. I think that's exactly what they're trying to do. And it's very, man, it's so interesting to watch on a micro scale, like the university and these petty professors trying to say it's her fault. It's her fault that we're terrible people who shouldn't be teaching students, never mind still employed by a university who will never see any of my children or my friends' children, I hope. What an absolute shithole. But really, like, it's incredible to watch. So interesting that this is our government. Interesting that this kind of stuff is allowed by the university. And when a university doesn't allow free speech generally, but is allowing their professors to make an example of somebody who dared question them and then who dared to stand up to them and be correct, right? Like, don't you dare do that. We'll sue you even if you're right. Right? And the same with the government. We'll sue you even though I probably shouldn't have said that. Right. And the last story today, I worked in education. I worked in education for 15 years. I worked in some of the hardest situations to deal with in education. I worked in Section 20 classrooms, when that's what they were called, and then Section 23. So I know aggression in schools. I watched as our schools went from places of learning to places where you needed to be on guard, and there were people in the classroom, me, who were there specifically because violent children were in the class with regular children. I, being trained in how to restrain somebody and how to deal with a violent situation, etc., was aware of all of the problems in the classroom. But those kids who had to sit in that classroom, who had no choice because of you have to go to school, there's no choice there, right? Those kids had no preparation for what was in those classrooms, for the violence and aggression that was there. And so, with all of that prep, I say it is incredibly poor what has happened to our education system. I am terribly concerned about children my daughter's age, she's 6, entering into this system because it's not getting better. People are doubling down on making it worse. We need more supports, and more supports don't help when the support fails. When the supports don't know what to do because you're not allowed to do anything, this happens.
Why are you fighting with the kid? What are you doing? What the heck?
Would you want your kid in that classroom? What is that showing? What is that teaching? We have lost control. Fundamentally, this experiment in full integration and having kumbaya classes that teach division, and not mathematical division, but gender intersectionalism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It is not helping our children. It is not getting them educated. It is not even making classrooms safe. It is destabilizing it. It is not helping. So I hope somebody can do something to fix this, but it looks like we're on a track that we can't even have a conversation about what the cause of this destabilization is. Never mind, start trying to fix it. In order to fix a problem, you have to identify the problem. And at this point in time, people think that it's the teacher. So unbelievable. Anyway, and I'm not talking about this specific incident. I'm talking about writ large. I think this is a microcosm where a video camera was recording at the right time to catch some violence, and et cetera. And I don't think the teacher was consequenced for any of his actions, but I don't know, so I haven't read through the whole thing. I just watched the video and I wanted to share it with you. But it's a bigger problem than just this, and it's happening everywhere, not just downtown Toronto. It's very concerning, very concerning. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful Sunday, and check out the peoplespartyofcanada.ca and check out canadapoly.com if you've got some extra time. We'd love to have you. Thanks for watching.